Hello folks from England, this is Chris. As we approach the final weeks of the U.S. government's fiscal year 2025, which expires on 30 September of 2025, events seem to be picking up pace in South Africa related to President Trump's refugee resettlement program for racial minorities in South Africa. Two breaking pieces of information I can share with you. Now, they're from anecdotal sources, so I'm usually reticent to share information I can't confirm elsewhere. But frankly, the opaque nature and the haphazard, abnormal approach to this by my government and the State Department, which seems to be confused as to their job and their responsibility to the public to allay fears and keep the public informed, is working in a very much a fashion that is not something that the public is aware of, and not sharing information that's vital for people to know, which would be useful to help allay a lot of concerns and fears in South Africa. Nonetheless, two things. Relying on anecdotal information from sources in South Africa. In the past 2 weeks, which run through today, in Pretoria alone, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 refugee aspirants have been interviewed for relocation to the United States in the past 2 weeks. If it's 3,000, that's an estimate. That's 1,500 per week have been processed. I can confirm multiple dates in the next few weeks when people are leaving South Africa to go to the United States as refugees under the resettlement program. So I think that's important for people to understand. Now, there's lots of rumors and speculation that this is a rush to get people over before the end of the fiscal year, that there'll be no money and that's why they're doing it. Well, frankly, the matter is there was no money for this program from the outset. This is a program announced during a fiscal year. And President Trump announced this and people were unprepared for it and they had to adjust. It also came at a time when President Trump had suspended the refugee program for the globe. So in that respect, it was also unusual. The way that the State Department has gone about this is also highly unusual. In-country refugee resettlement is rare, not unheard of, but rare. We've done it in Bosnia, we've done it in Cuba and elsewhere, but it's uncommon. And so they ran with a pilot or test program, proof of concept, which they never bothered even confirmed to the public and left a lot of people confused. Then formally announced the program on the 12th of May and left a lot of people confused. Now, here are some of the rumors that are floating out there. They're getting as many people over now before the fiscal year ends because they can't get more people next year. Well, there's no evidence of that. That's just nonsense. They're getting as many people over here now as they can because there's a cap in the next year. Well, folks, I have told you since the 7th of February as an analyst that the U.S. executive branch has an obligation to send a report to Congress every year. It's one of the checks and balances in our supposedly three co-equal branches of government, that the Congress has a check on the president because he has to send this report over. In the annual refugee and asylum report, he's supposed to include projections for how many people they intend to allow into the country. Now, Reuters' Ted Hesson reported a few weeks back that that cap for 2026 has been established or was in the process of being established, and that it would be 40,000 for the world, of which 30,000 would be for South Africans. Now, Ted said that was for Afrikaners, but that's factually incorrect. It's for South Africans, not Afrikaners. Whatever the case is, 75% of those allocations would be for South Africans. This is a unique situation in and of itself, and a lot of people are panicking. But frankly, I don't know why people are panicking. If you put your statement of interest in on the 12th of May or after that, if you made your case, be patient, you'll be processed. There are a lot of applications out there, or a lot of statements of interest, I should say. So another rumor about this is that, well, the Trump administration is going to limit people for whatever reason. And I've heard dozens of reasons why they're going to do it. You have no evidence of that, and I have no evidence to the contrary. What I can tell you is that virtually everything I've said about this program from the outset, and bear in mind that I've had virtually no information available to me. The U.S. government has been opaque, has not been sharing information. It is not open about this program. Those involved with the program, including Church World Services, are disrespectful and don't respond to media inquiries, and therefore they should be scrutinized for that. And RSC works for them as well. I've never asked for any access to RSC, but I asked for Church World Services, and they simply ignored that. The State Department ignored official request. I'm left with no option but to begin Freedom of Information Act request to find out about this program. And I have some concerns that maybe something untoward is going on. Not towards the number of people coming over, but the manner in which this program is being executed. Now, I'm not making any allegations or accusations, but the fact that my government remains so close-lipped about what's going on and how they're going about this, leaving a lot of people hanging. People who sent in a PRM email in March, people who sent in statement of interest on the 12th of May, and not knowing, because no one has contacted them, or they've been contacted in a haphazard fashion and not given sufficient information. Not to mention, several people, and I say several, I mean dozens of people have contacted me and said, well, they were contacted and told they're going to call back the next day or the next week or 2 weeks from then, and no one's ever contacted them again. this raises serious questions about how the program is being executed. Now, I have not been covering for my government, but I've not been spreading rumors or unsubstantiated allegations. And I'm not doing that now. What I am saying is that I will begin scrutinizing this program much more closely. And I will rely on freedom of information requests to the Department of State, which will irritate the Department of State, but they had their opportunity. February, March, April, May, June, July, August. This is now September. 8th month since the program was announced on the 7th of February. We're in our 8th month now. And they're still opaque about this. So I have served in the U.S. government, and I know what it's like to have to deal with a freedom of information request. They're annoying, they're troublesome, they're time-consuming, but it's the right of Americans, American media, American citizens to do those things when the government is being opaque. I've held off as long as possible. At this stage, it's too late. It's too long. So get ready for the freedom of information request, because they're coming your way, Department of State, for being so opaque and not sharing information with the public. And when you do share information with the public, it has been people who aren't authorized to do it, and they've leaked assets or leaked elements of the program that have simply caused chaos and fear, which is not helpful. So there you go, folks. But again, the point I want to get to the beginning of this is that as many as 3,000 people in Pretoria alone, and we know we're doing interviews in Johannesburg, but in Pretoria alone, 3,000 people, up to 3,000 people in the last 2 work weeks processed to leave South Africa and the United States. South Africa, if this continues to pan out the way it's headed, will be bled dry of human capital. It will be bled dry of human capital. Between emigration out of the country on people's own initiative and this refugee program, which is free, South Africa is going to regret its behavior towards the United States and its treatment of its racial minorities. Or maybe they won't. You decide. Thanks a lot, folks. Cheers.